What's going on, everybody? This is our podcast. We're with MMA Fighter Luke Staley. Say what's up to the podcast.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Thank you for having me, Jordan.
Yeah, dude, of course. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna start it off. Just tell the viewers of what got you started into MMA, and going from there.
Boy, man, that's a feel like it's a long story. Yeah, I guess I was just a fan of the sport. Um, I didn't wrestle or anything in high school or college. I actually played soccer all the way through
Okay.
college, and then I even played a little semi-pro soccer. So high school, college, a little bit after. But I was always a fan of mixed martial arts, I guess. I just stumbled across like a rerun of a fight when I was in high school, and I was like, "This is incredible!" And I was just really attracted to the kind of the human spirit on display. Not so much the violence or the punching or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess I'm a fan of sports just in general. That's still my full time job. I fight professionally, and I work full time in sports ministry.
Nice.
So coaches, athletes, sports. I just love everything about the environment, the people, what sports bring out of people.
Yeah.
And when I watched this fight, it was a rerun of Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 2, which if you've never seen that fight before, go on UFC Fight Pass and watch it. It's just one of the best title fights of all time. It actually ended in a draw. It's a crazy fight.
Really.
Anyways, so for me, as a kid who had never seen any type of mixed martial arts really before, um, I was so kind of taken back by the display of like human grit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can be entertained by almost any sport. Like I'm the type of person when like the Olympics rolls around, um, whatever sport is on, I can get into it. And I'm rooting for Team USA. And if USA doesn't have an athlete in the sport, I'll root for whichever athlete like has the most swagger or something. But
Yeah.
like I just love watching athletes compete. And when I watched this old fight, I remember I had never in my life seen a sport where I uh had watched two athletes have to dig to like a deeper depth of their soul
Mm-hmm.
to try to come out with victory. And that's what attracted me to the sport. I was like, man, this is like the pinnacle of competition. Um, I got into the sport around a really good time for a fan, for a consumer. It was right around the McGregor Aldo fight,
Okay.
which is a while back. Is kind of when McGregor was on his rise.
Mm-hmm.
And Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo did this like full like 6 month long media tour,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really a like a boom era in the popularity of the UFC and of mixed martial arts. So as a new fan, I was like, man, this sport is awesome. And so I, watch fights on TV when I could. I would, spend like a bunch of time on YouTube watching highlights of Anderson Silva and Cowboy Cerrone and
Mm-hmm.
uh, the classic guys. And so just as a fan, when I got to college, my whole goal in college, because I was a full-time student, playing
Okay.
soccer, my whole goal was to find a gym near my school
Yeah.
and just do one amateur MMA fight before I graduated college. I just wanted to
Okay.
like experience it.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
Yeah. And so I found a gym that
Mm-hmm.
was walking distance from the gym. And by walking distance, it was a mile away. So I'd walk a mile there and a mile back just to train because I didn't have a
Really?
car.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't have any money. So I'd wake up at 5 a.m., work like the opening shift at a grocery store 2 or 3 times a week while going to school and playing a sport full time.
Wow.
I'd make just enough money, minimum wage, that I could afford my gym membership at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
month.
Yeah.
So when anyone ever tells me they don't have enough time or money to train, and I see the situation they're in, they got a steady job, they have transportation. They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I want to train, I just don't have the time or the money." I'm like, "You do, you just don't want it bad enough."
Yeah. Exactly.
Because if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. Anyways, I was training and I completed my goal of having my first amateur MMA fight, and I actually wound up doing 7 amateur fights in college.
Wow.
I
Holy
got
crap.
hooked, and that's just a short version of how I got started. So yeah.
Dude, I think just like hearing from your story, it's like really, really persuasive because like I hear it and it's just like it sounds exactly like going into it. It's just like you have you're in school and you're in college to get a degree, but you have this interest and this passion for this sport, and you're going in, you're working just so you can pay for the membership. So like I know doing the full MMA program is expensive. Like I know a couple hundred or 100 a month, right?
Yeah, which
Yeah.
for a college kid, it's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
that's like nothing. And it's just like
Yeah, for a non-college kid, even
yeah.
still, a couple $100 a month isn't small money for me. But yeah, I'm in a much better position now financially. I'm really blessed, just kind of where mixed martial arts is taking me, the
Mhm.
opportunities it's given me to help people, to reach people with the gospel. It's really clear to me that God's hand was all over that journey at the time.
Definitely.
Looking at the sport, getting started out, it was all about me and my glory and my
Mhm.
accomplishments. But where God's taking me with it now, it's so clear that none of that would have been even remotely possible without Him. And He had a much bigger plan for me than just sports. Even though I've had the blessing to compete on some decently large stages as a
Mhm.
professional,
Yeah.
uh, all those accomplishments are just a secondary kind of cherry on top to why I know God got me into the sport in the first place, which is to use it as a platform to glorify Him and to reach people for Him. So yeah, man, let's the whole story I'd probably take the full hour, maybe another time. But yeah, there was just a bunch of really crazy things that happened. Like the thing that got me started was I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast with Cowboy
Okay.
Cerrone, and sort of my logic as a freshman in college is I was going to make sure that I sort of figured out college, got my classes in order, and then my
Mhm.
sophomore year I was going to start training MMA. I was going to wait a year so I could get settled in school.
Yeah, definitely. That's
And
that's a good way to
yeah,
get
but
going with that.
Cowboy was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Mhm.
Obviously UFC legend, and he
Yeah,
was like at the
definitely.
height of his popularity at that time. He was uh kicking butt. And he wasn't even talking about fighting. He just said something to the effect of, and I'm summarizing here, like if you keep waiting on life to get living, you're never gonna accomplish any of your goals.
Mhm.
So literally that week, I found an MMA gym. So I didn't wait my first year. I just like dove
Wow.
right in because I was like, if I wait for the right time, I'm just gonna keep putting it off.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you,
Um,
I definitely agree with that because it's like you want to get started on something and it's just like if you put it off it's gonna keep bugging you. That's like my thing. So like if I don't go to the gym, I don't work hard, like even what you said with like God, like finding his path for you, like I 100% believe that because I believe in God like so much. It's just like I watch prayers, I have prayers at night, and I feel like going through that path is like one of the best things you can do because he's gonna lead you where to go, and if you work hard enough for it, he'll find a way to make it happen.
yeah, it's it's the best thing that you can do,
Yeah,
is to
definitely.
find God's plan. Everything else is just gonna fall short.
Hmm. Yeah, but going off of your like experience of playing soccer for years, like I can honestly relate to like everything you're talking about in like terms of you going to college. So I played soccer my whole life. I went into college freshman year, get into just seeing how the school year goes off. My sophomore year, I was looking for an MMA gym because I was really into MMA. I started watching a lot of the UFC fights. I lived in a house with like 30 different people. So it was kind of,
Really?
yeah, I lived in a huge house with 30 different people, I think at the time. Yeah. And
Was this like a college house or?
yeah, college house, fraternity house. But it was just like in my perspective, it was more of a friend thing. I didn't think of like I'm not even a person who wants to just go out and drink, have parties. I just want to be there for the friends and want to be there for like memories per se. But I was there. We would watch UFC fights all the time. When I started watching them, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of liking this. And then I started watching videos on the side. Then I was like, you know what? I think I want to try this because it's like, you know, if you don't try it, it's gonna bug you a lot. And I thought it's something, you know what? Something new. I'm gonna try it. So I went to a gym, not even maybe 2 miles away from college. I did have a car, so I did drive to that. But it was just like it was hard to find the gym, which is kind of funny. I was going in this
Where were you going
building.
to school at the time?
I went to NIU, so Northern Illinois University. But I was going through this gym. I was trying to find it. It was in like this office, and I was like, I was I was like going deep into it. I was like, where is this place? And I was just like going all the way down. I'm like, oh, here it is. Like I go in, I'm just like to the guy, which is my coach at the time, is I just go like, oh hey, like I'm looking to do something like MMA. I want to try it out. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like I came on a day where it's like Muay Thai, boxing, and Jiu Jitsu, and he's like, come try out Muay Thai, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this. I wasn't like, yeah, I played soccer, but I'm not a flexible dude. Like I cannot like roundhouse perfectly. So I was going in there, I was doing this. You know what? I'm hooked on this. So going off of what you said, it's just like it grows on you, and now I like want to compete and definitely get what you're going through. But anyway, how what would you say for being a professional fighter? How has your experience been in that?
Yeah, so I went pro about 3 years ago, and then right after my pro debut, I'm 2-1 as a professional.
Okay.
So three years, three fights, not super active.
Yeah.
Um, Man, my plan coming out of college was to take a couple years just to try to make it to the UFC. I wanted to fight three,
Mm-hmm.
4 times a year on the regional circuit, and do that regional fighter journey to see if I can make it to the big show. That was my ambition.
Okay.
I make my professional debut October 3rd, 2020. I get choked out in like 60 seconds.
Wow.
Um, I proposed to my then girlfriend. She
Oh.
says yes. She's now my wife, my beautiful wife. This is a couple years back. She came down to my. That's the first time she ever saw me fight. I get choked out in like
Oh,
1 minute.
really?
Oh my gosh, yeah, what an experience and humility. And obviously going into pro, coming off, a little streak of wins as an amateur. So you haven't lost in a while, and then you lose, and you're like, Anyways, so I proposed to her way too early. God is good, it worked out, but like I
Mm-hmm.
proposed way too early to her. We'd only been dating for like 5 months.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
Hey, when you
and
know the time is right with that person, you know. So it's,
yeah,
I mean,
I didn't know. I went in way
yeah.
too early. But God is good, and she is the love of my life, and she is who God always planned for me to be with. But so I get engaged, and then 20 days later,
Okay.
I'm scrolling through my phone, and I see an Instagram ad for this group called Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA,
Okay. Never heard of that.
and man, I don't know what it was about this graphic, or I didn't know at the time. But I just felt like God was putting it on my heart to pursue this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you scroll past Instagram ads every
Yeah,
day,
definitely.
right?
Like all the time, I'd see
It's
some
not like a
stuff.
natural thing to feel like an inclination to pursue.
Yeah, I know. I totally get what you're feeling. I've seen like all these ads where it's just like, you know what? Like, is this like something I want to do? Or, like, is this a hoax? Like, should I try this? So, yeah, like, I've
Yeah,
tried
you just
Instagram
scroll
ads.
past without even thinking usually.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was a now hiring ad, and I really felt like God wanted me to pursue this. I had a degree in political science.
Okay.
I just made my pro debut. Didn't go my way, but that's fine. I'm wanting to hop right back into it, try to get 3, 4 fights a year and as a pro. But I just felt like God was leading me this way. So I reach out to these people. I meet with this guy who I'd already known actually from college. He had helped kind of mentor and disciple me through school. So I did have a previous relationship with this individual. His name was Frankie. And I met with him at a coffee shop, and he is like, "Yeah, this is a position for full time ministry, like full time missions work."
Wow.
And man, I had a little interview with him, and it's a pretty extensive process because one, a lot of your job is working with kids, and two, you're sharing the gospel, so they have to make sure that the people they hire are called to this, right, for this job. So after like 4 interviews, I get a job offer to go into missions work full time.
Wow.
Totally not the door I thought God was gonna open, man. I thought I was gonna be, right back on the regional circuit fighting for $100. uh, you know, so I could get a shot at the big show. But I felt like this is where God was calling me.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued to pursue that process, and I came on staff with FCA back in 2021. And for the past about 2 years, I've been working in full time ministry with FCA,
Nice,
and
dude.
I'm super blessed. I still get to fight professionally. I've had, fought once again in 2022, won that fight via submission.
Mm-hmm.
Fought again in 2020, or fought in 2021, won that fight, fought again in 2022, won that fight as well.
Dude.
I went pro in jujitsu last year, and have had some limited but some decent success in professional grappling. I fought for some grappled for some pretty big promotions. I got on one of those invited to one of those big Fury Pro grappling shows that they
Okay.
have on UFC Fight Pass,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
beat a
those.
black belt. After all,
Nice,
I've
dude.
only been training for 6 years. I mean, that guy, was a purple belt before I even started training. I beat him on a big stage, and had some other cool opportunities to compete as a pro grappler. So, the journey of martial arts is still going, but really it's integrated with this journey of full time ministry. I run jujitsu Bible studies
Wow.
out of a
Okay.
gym.
I've
I,
never
I
I've never like heard of that. Like you want to explain a little more about that? Like what you do. Is it like do you have like a maybe like you spend like an hour or something on that?
Yeah, I can explain that a little bit.
Okay.
So,
Sweet.
the ministry that I work for, FCA, is a big sports ministry. It's in all 50 states and over 116 different countries.
Wow.
They're doing great work, literally all over the world. A lot of their work obviously is in traditional sports, football, baseball, soccer, basketball. They've got tons of ministry in those areas. Um, but one of the things that's kind of relatively new to FCA is integrating ministry into combat sports,
Okay.
boxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA. There's a couple athletes whose names that you might recognize who have been involved with FCA. It's actually a guy who's fighting in a couple weeks, Benil Dariush.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, he's been involved in helping out with FCA in California where he lives. I live in
Wow.
Maryland.
Okay.
But we're slowly starting to find open doors to share Jesus through the sport of jujitsu. So I started a jujitsu Bible study at a local gym that I go to. They just started a jiu-jitsu Bible study in Virginia, right across the border from me.
Wow.
And
That's
now
cool.
FCA, kind of led by me in the Mid-Atlantic region for jiu-jitsu, I have a goal of starting a jiu-jitsu Bible study in every state in our little Mid-Atlantic region. So Pennsylvania, Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, and we're slowly starting to see a bigger integration of how we can combine faith and jujitsu. Now there are some other countries who have been doing this really well for longer. Obviously, in Brazil, where jiu-jitsu is like the second biggest sport, it's soccer in Brazil
Yeah.
and jiu-jitsu, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is as popular as like I don't know what the biggest sport is here in the United States. Maybe football or
Yeah, probably
basketball.
American football. I'd say it's kind
Yeah,
of tough because there'd be like a huge argument about it, but I say
yeah.
football just because
So
like
football or basketball, but
mm-hmm.
then like maybe a close second would be like Major League Baseball.
Yeah, or
So
NHL.
jiu-jitsu,
You never know.
NHL exactly. So jiu-jitsu in Brazil is as big as MLB or NHL is here in the United States. I mean, the athletes are famous. The sport is well followed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ton of great ministry that's been done by FCA in Brazil. But here in the United States, jiu-jitsu and ministry is a little newer for FCA, but it's kind of growing here, and some cool things are happening. But basically, it's a long explanation to get to kind of like the simple point of it, which is a big passion on my heart is to reach people with the message of Jesus Christ through the sport of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So that's why I feel like God has really got me into the sport. Not so much to have accomplishments for myself, although He's blessed me with that. But that's, like I said, that's secondary. That's just the cherry on top. I know that God has really brought me into the sport to reach people for Him. Yeah.
Dude, wow, wow, that just like actually like touched me because like I actually think that's a really good idea. Like FCA, I think that's a really good idea. Just I know there's a lot of people who don't really take the time to like worship God, even though they don't know like He's on us, God's on their side, you know. And for doing like jujitsu or like MMA Bible studies, that's like perfect. Cause like as of what I've seen, everyone in the MMA gym has got like something going on that's like similar to everyone. You know, there's people that have been picked on in high school. Like I was picked on in high school. I'm really open about it. That go into here. They want to. All these people, like all the guys in my gym, are the nicest people I've ever met. And it's just like you guys have a connection. Everyone in a gym probably has a connection. Doing something like a Bible study and believing in God and getting closer to that and everyone else is, I think that's a really perfect way. And it's spreading that. You're going to do such an amazing job because, one, you know, Benil Darush does it and he's a huge UFC fighter. Everyone follows him. So I just think, like, wow, like, I have never heard of that. And like hearing about this now, it's just like wow, that's like something really fascinating and something to really touch up on.
Yeah. Also, there's another famous UFC fighter named Nate Marquardt. Fought for the UFC title, beat Tyron Woodley actually for the
Okay.
Strikeforce title. Yeah, he's got that insane elbow knockout of Tyron Woodley in Strikeforce.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
I know what
but
you're talking about.
he works with FCA too. He actually traveled to FCA Armenia in
Okay.
Europe, and
Whoa.
he did a Christian MMA camp.
Are you
And
talking
he's doing
about
a
the
lot of cool
country?
stuff.
The country
What's that?
Armenia? Are you talking about the
Country
country?
of
Okay.
Armenia. Yeah.
Nice. Dude, I think that's awesome. Just spreading it all around the globe. I think I don't know. It hasn't hit. Is it not like all around? Like spread it. I know you said 50 states, but is it like used a lot at different MMA gyms or?
No, no, it's very, very new.
Okay.
Most of FCA's work is through, like I said, traditional sports, football, basketball, soccer, baseball. Just because they've been around longer, it's easier to find Christian athletes there, and it's easier to find people who play their sports there. As much as we love MMA and jiu-jitsu, and as big as it's growing, it's still, compared to soccer and
Yeah.
football, it's relatively small.
Yeah. Let's say like for an example, let's say like an MMA gym wants to do something like this. How would they get started with that? Like
Yeah,
how would they like get involved with FCA, you know?
yeah, two things. One, um, they don't necessarily need FCA. In fact, the
Okay.
gym that we currently hold our Jiu-Jitsu Bible study at, we call it a huddle at FCA,
Okay.
or huddle at. Um, the owner was a Christian who had a heart to share Jesus through Jiu-Jitsu previously, and he had been experimenting with some Bible study stuff off and on for a long time. And so he didn't necessarily need FCA to start that vision. So if you're a gym and you have that vision, I would just encourage you to go for it. But one of the advantages of FCA was we had some resources, some infrastructure, some
Okay.
structure to help bring. So we were able to come in and provide Bibles, come in and help do a little bit of the game planning, some of the advertising, the social media marketing, help cast vision and pray with his gym owner. So he really just took his previous vision and poured a little bit of gasoline on it.
Yeah.
So if you are a jujitsu gym who has a passion for sharing Jesus, you can just go on Google and search your local FCA staff. You just look up Fellowship
Okay.
of Christian Athlete Staff, whatever city you're in. And if you find an FCA staff person in your area, you can call them and email them and say, hey, I want to start an FCA huddle at my gym. Would you be willing to help provide Bibles or devotionals, or even just sit down and kind of game plan and vision cast what this would look like? And they would be able to come and help strengthen the vision that you already have. So great question, but I would say one, if you're a gym owner with a vision to share Jesus through your gym, through the sport of jiu-jitsu, just go for it.
Yeah.
But two, if you do Google FCA staff and there's one close by in your local area, just Fellowship of Christian Athlete staff in, New York City, and there's one close by, and
Mm-hmm.
you email them or call them and they want to help you, we can provide some resources that'll really help turn your vision into like a reality. So, yeah, great question. But FCA always looking to find what we call mobilized volunteers to help share the gospel through whatever sport you participate in. But obviously, we're talking about MMA and jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
Yeah, I just thinking like, dude, a lot of people in my gym like believe in God, and it's just like something like that could bring it a lot closer, and like have everyone do it. So it's like in the fact of, oh, let's say like one of these guys doesn't really pray and has never really gotten himself into that, who's at the gym. That's something that could that's a really good idea because it can bring a lot of people closer and bring a lot of people closer to God.
absolutely. And one of the things that I find is there are Christians at these gyms. There are people who believe in God at these gyms, but they're not like connected. They kind of keep their faith private. Maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
friends with someone and he kind of believes in God, and you're friends with someone and he kind of believes in God, but you've like never connected
Yeah.
those common beliefs, that unification in Jesus. But when you are open about it and you can have a huddle like this, which you find is like, oh, I never knew that person was a Christian. Oh, I never knew he was a Christian or she was a Christian. And it kind of helps the whole gym culture open up and kind of be more vocal. And um optimally, best case scenario, these people can come together and help one another grow in their walk with Jesus and be more bold and more vocal in their walk with Jesus. So that's one of the huge advantages to having a huddle at your gym. Yeah.
Yeah, I just after hearing like all your explanation about all this, I'm thinking like this is one of the best things for getting people closer with God and like gyms. And I like since you said they've done it with like football, baseball, all those sports. I think that's definitely something because I've seen a lot like now in this generation. As much as I like look into it, I see a lot of people are like believing in God more, which is like a really good thing. Like I'm on TikTok all the time. I mean, everybody is, but mostly like every single one of my videos on a For You page is something about God, Jesus. It's just it's something that really helps. Like there's literally a guy who does like a prayer every night and pops up on my feed every day, and it's a good thing because it's like I need that, and God is showing me that, telling me a message. So yeah.
Yeah. Amen, man. That's funny. I was with a prayer group a couple weeks ago, and one of the ladies was praying. She was like, "Dear Lord, please like hack the algorithm on TikTok and Instagram and show all these young people like videos of you and Christianity and Bible verses." It's like that's such a unique prayer, but I thought it was a really good point.
Yeah.
And
I
you bring up a good point too, man. You talking about how you feel like you're seeing more Christian videos on TikTok and
mm-hmm.
Instagram. when at the same time it feels like America as a country is getting more and more opposed to Jesus. You do see more people getting more vocal about Jesus, and I think this makes sense because the darker an environment is, the more a light is going to stick out. So even if the country of America and the culture is becoming more oppositional to Christianity, that means those of us who do love Jesus are going to be able to stand out that much more. So I think it's such an important time to be bold and to be vocal for your faith. Whereas, America maybe 10, 20 years ago, everyone kind of said they were Christian because it's like considered a Christian country. It's like, yeah, I go to church on Easter, I go to church on Christmas. So maybe everyone considered themselves culturally Christian. But
Yeah.
maybe you had like a hard time distinguishing, like, man, who's really like sold out for Jesus and who's not. Whereas nowadays, even though it's maybe a little scarier to be a Christian, one of the benefits of that, one of the silver linings is that when you do meet someone who's like very vocal about their love for Jesus, you have like a good kind of like inclination that like this person's really sold out for what they believe in. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just thought that was a good point that you brought up about TikTok and Instagram and seeing stuff and it's sticking out more.
Yeah, I've also another thing that's like one of the other things like my last thing to talk about this topic, but I think a lot of reasons like you can get close with God is like when one of your loved ones goes up to heaven, it's just like God has him and it's or her, and it's just like you make prayers just to make sure they're safe, they're doing well, you know. Of course God's going to take care of them, but it's just like, you know, I've lost like someone so close to me. I actually lost I'm actually really open about it. I lost my brother last year. Uh, just last year, I lost my brother in late April, and so ever since then, I've become a lot closer with God. Because I know
Man, I'm
one,
so sorry, Jordan.
yeah,
Older or younger?
older. So both of my older brothers, I got one right now who's 30, and then Justin, which is my middle brother, passed away. He was 27. But going off of that, it's just like I know God has him and he's doing well. And it's just like every day I know he's watching down on me. Even when like I work outside, that's like my other job. And when I see clear skies and stuff, I always think he's looking down on me. And it's just like, it's always a good thing to think about. So it's just like for anyone who's loses a loved one, just always think like God has them and God is always there for you and he's always watching down on you, even your loved one is too. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say about that. Those two things, TikTok and then loved one. But I don't know what your thought is on that, but that's kind of
One loved ones passing away?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a really heavy topic.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, we don't need to get into it. We
Okay,
can
cool. I'm
yeah.
happy to get into it. But I will say, let me say this real quick, okay?
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's good. We tend to think death is a heavy topic, and it is. But
Mhm.
then also, everyone dies.
Yeah.
Like when you say, sometimes I'll preach about eternity and I'll preach about death. When I say everyone in this room is gonna die, the room goes silent.
Mhm.
But then I'll ask, raise your hand if you didn't know you were going to die, like eventually. And of course, no one raises their hand.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a heavy topic, but yet we know that ultimately that's where all of us are headed.
Mhm.
So why is it a heavy topic? Well, obviously, it's because we don't like to talk about it much. And the reason that is because as humans, we have a tendency to like push off things that we don't want to think about, even
Yeah.
if we know they're imminent,
Mhm.
push off the chores, push off the tough conversations, push off the homework assignment,
Yeah. Definitely was gonna
that's
say
our
schoolwork.
inclination. But I do urge people, even though it is a heavy topic, there is nothing more important you could think about than where you're going after you die. Way more important than a chore, way more important than a homework assignment. We like to think about it as an awkward subject, but like I said again, I don't really know why it is, because we all know that's where we're headed. It's not like surprising to any of us.
Yeah.
But it is a scary thing to think about where you're going to go after you die if you don't know for sure where you're going to go after you die. You know, um I'm totally at ease with whenever God wants to take me home, not because of anything I've done, but because I believe in these four simple truths, very four, and I'll keep them short, simple truths. One, God loves me. I know God loves me and he created me. But I also know that I'm not perfect. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
sinner. Romans says that all fall short of God's standard. Um, and I'm not trying to call anyone out. It's like not everyone but Luke or everyone but Jordan. Not
Yeah.
sitting on any high horse. Everyone,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And if you think you're above other people, you're mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, so I know that I'm a sinner, and I know that the Bible says the wages of sin are death, meaning physical death, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
also spiritual death, which means separation from God. Um, I know that's the penalty I deserve because I sinned, but I also know that God sent his son, Jesus, to die for my sins. Jesus lived a perfect life. I did not live the perfect life. I
Mm-hmm.
deserve death. Jesus did not deserve death. But Jesus willingly chose to die, even though he didn't deserve it. It's an odd thing. He willingly chose to die to pay the debt of my sin. And then now I have that free gift of salvation if I want to accept Jesus Christ as the penalty for my sin. God will accept his payment in my place, and then I can go to heaven. And so, when I was younger, I didn't quite understand this. But as I got older, God kind of opened up my eyes to it. And I said, all right, Jesus, I recognize that I'm not perfect, but you were perfect in my place. And so I accepted the free gift of Jesus as the payment for my sin. So now I know that I'm going to go to heaven when I die, not because of the works that I've done, not because of anything that I've done to earn it, not because of anything other than the fact that Jesus died for me. But I know where I'm going when I die. So it's not scary to think about death. But if I didn't know that, it would be terrifying to think about death. And it would be so terrifying that I would most likely do what everybody else does, which is just not think about it at all. Um, but if you know Jesus, then cool, man.
Yeah.
Death, where is thy sting? You can't do anything to me.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what you're going off of. But going, so we're gonna switch topics, get back on your MMA topics, but going off of your career, after losing your first professional fight of your 60 seconds submission, what changed to going from that to winning two straight fights?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Cool. I can actually talk about this my pro debut and losing that, and juxtaposition it with my most recent fight
Okay.
because they match really well. So my pro debut, I was fighting a Glory kickboxer. He's also undefeated in BKFC. He's a very high
Wow.
level striker. Very high level striker. Um, but his jujitsu was not that good, or
Mhm.
at least I didn't think so. So I was so cocky and so
Yeah.
arrogant. I was like, man, if he catches me on the feet, it is what it is. But I'm not scared of his ground game at all. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take this guy down, and
Mhm.
he's just a punk on the ground. I'm not scared of it at all. Well, the fight starts, and I'm doing better than I think I was gonna do on the feet. I'm landing some shots. I'm avoiding his.
Mhm.
And I score that takedown. And because I'm totally disrespecting this guy on the ground,
Yeah.
it's a takedown that I've done a million times. To just sit him down, he goes to post on his arm, and I wrap his legs in a body triangle and pull him off the fence, Habib style. Dude, I've
Okay.
done this 100 times in the gym. But because I have no respect for this guy, I think he's a total punk on the ground.
Mhm.
Instead of wrapping his legs, I pick him up and walk him across the cage like I'm going to do the big slam.
Yeah, yeah, like
I'll just
Jordan
show it
Levitt
off
did.
because
Yeah.
this guy sucks on the ground. I'm not worried. Well, because he had an opposite mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I was disrespecting him before the fight in my head, and he was respecting me. He told me after the fight he was so worried he was doing nothing but working his jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's been working his butt off because he respects my skills, and he jumps a perfect guillotine, and that thing is
Wow.
like locked in immediately. He wouldn't even have the opportunity to do it if I just did what I should have done. But because I was cocky and he was respectful, he gets this opportunity to shoot this Hail Mary guillotine, and it's perfect. I mean, it's
Wow.
locked on. And so
Yeah.
I try to fight it, and I can't obviously get out of it, and he chokes me unconscious.
Dude, I just think like off of a lot of fighters, I've heard a lot of stories where I do the podcast and stuff where it's like they got too cocky. Like I know a UFC fighter who actually recently retired. I don't know if Jason Witt. I know he
Oh, one of my
had
friends. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. He I know his fight against Josh Quinlan. I think he told me when me and him talked about it because I think we did the podcast after he lost that fight. Um, and he didn't retire until like maybe 2, 3 months after that, or maybe a month, 2 months. But he was telling me that because he got a little cocky and just it didn't go. The fight didn't go the way he wanted, and it went from him going up for a strike and Josh Quinlan just straight up get him right in the jaw and down. And it's just like it's a lot of things with fighters where they get cocky in their head, and it's just like you never think that the person who you're fighting against is respecting you. It's it could go their way, and it's just like they're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna find my moment because like I feel like I don't know what this guy's doing. He looks like he's disrespecting me, or could not be looks, but it's just like I like the guy who's fighting against you that has like the good mindset. It's just like they're gonna find their right moment, and if anyone's like in like a cocky mood, sometimes it will get back to them. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes you'll get a perfect KO, and then you'll start showing off and acting like, oh, I'm this shit, and it's just like, or yeah, like I said, it's gonna some bad will happen, or like you'll get KO'd, or you'll lose unanimous. You never know. But I'm just saying, it's like it's a good thing where, like I said to my last podcast with Anthony, I was like, because he was telling me he lost one of his fights, and after he lost his first fight professionally, it was a wake up call for him. I think that's a like I told him, it's a lot of things with different fighters. When they lose a fight, it's a wake up call. They know what they need to do next, so they hop on that, and they do something different, and they started winning. So exactly what you did, you had that wake up call, and there you go.
Yeah. So my most recent fight was the total opposite. I fought this guy from this gym in Las Vegas called Extreme Couture. It's
Okay.
a really good gym out there.
Wow.
And he was a really good striker. And I was terrified of this dude, man.
Really?
Yeah, man. Um, he's just good. Like you just watch him, and he's like, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
you can tell, right? And I trained so hard, and I gave him like so much respect in my training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And when it got to fight night, I put in the work, and I, had given him his due respect. And I went out there and put on just the best performance of my life. I mean, beat
Wow.
him on the feet, beat him on the ground, beat him everywhere, and then ended up getting a arm triangle choke in the second round and finishing the fight. But just like total opposite of my first fight mindset of instead of disrespecting my opponent, just giving him the respect that he
Mm-hmm.
deserves, and you know, was able to go out there and get the job done. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, dude. Telling me that you went out there with respect, and I know, like, I don't like going out there and you're just like, oh shoot, like I'm going against this really good guy, like you're freaking out about it. But like you put all your fight camps of like respecting him and knowing how good he is, and going out there and putting on your best performance you've ever done. So that's couldn't get any more perfect than that. So like congrats to doing that, man. It takes a lot of work to lose like a fight and then you come back even stronger. Some people can't pull it off, you know. There's some times when, you know, I'm a Cowboy Cerrone, for example. He amazing fighter. Well, when he got older, he's losing his fights. When he retired, his last fight, Jim Miller. That's when I was kind of getting into UFC. It's just like I missed the good era, and going into that, it's just like I was seeing like, oh yeah, he's getting older, and like even Tony Ferguson, he's
Oh,
losing.
prime Tony, baby.
Dude, yeah, dude, prime Tony Ferguson, amazing. But like you're just seeing now, it's just like when some people can't come back from a loss, and it could be also they're getting old, but
Yeah.
you see some of these fighters who are older who are actually like putting off. Like one of the guys who I've done a podcast with, Adam Fugit. He's an older fighter, and he is 33, but like he started MMA late, and he's getting older, and he just had a fight against, I think, 22-year-old on his debut in the UFC, first round finish to that kid. And it's just like a lot of these vets are good enough, but it happens in your mindset or anything. It's just like, oh, like I lost a fight. Some people can't come back from that, even
Yeah,
if they've
for sure.
achieved so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, just going off of that, that's like my way to put it. Um, so for a last topic, what are you thinking? Um, could talk UFC. I'm pretty good with that, or any sport or anything. I thought talking about the whole God thing, the FCA, was a perfect thing. I thought it was really good learning about that because I've never heard of that. So I thought like hearing that, I was like, wow. But uh, UFC, if you want to talk about that or anything, I'm up for it. It's just
Yeah, man, I feel like I've talked about the FCA stuff's my favorite stuff to talk about, but I feel like I covered most of the bases I wanted to
yeah,
there.
definitely.
Um, man, what I guess the topic I've always wanted to talk about is just like well, I don't know. Maybe that man, I'm kind of at a loss for it. You got anything else? I mean, I feel like the podcast was so good. I covered everything I wanted to
Yeah,
talk about coming
yeah,
into it.
definitely.
I were like three main things I wanted to hit, and you asked questions on all of them. So good
Sweet.
job to you.
I appreciate that. That's kind of just what I want to get. I want to get what they want to talk about, where it's just like I know like this will be something you want to get into or they want to get into. But I mean, if you want to go through a quick topic, we could talk about UFC, like what I did with one of the podcasts. You could pick a weight class, and we'll go off of that.
Yeah, let's talk about well, we talked about Benil Dariush.
Okay.
Let's talk about Islam, not Islam. Let's talk about the Charles Oliveira versus Benil Dariush. And then we can talk about whoever wins that, how you think they match up against Islam Makhachev.
Okay. We'll definitely, yeah, let's get into
Well,
that.
let's start with that. Who do you think wins that? Oliveira versus Dariush.
So I'm thinking, because Darush is a really fast striker, and just seeing him fight, I think he's a really good fighter. And of Oliveira going off of his last fight about losing the Makachev, I was thinking that last fight he had against Makachev, it was kind of like he was at a point where you know how Makachev got him up in the submission, where they were on the ground game. I was thinking there's a point where Oliveira was thinking in his head that he couldn't do it any much more because he knew that Makachev had him. I think a lot of people who watched that fight knew what that Makachev had Oliveira, but people didn't want to admit that because Oliveira was such a good fighter and such a good guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I based on how that first fight went, I don't really see Oliveira's path to victory in a
Mm-hmm.
rematch against.
Yeah, I
I mean,
don't
I think
either.
the best case scenario for Charles Oliveira, if he wins this fight,
Uh,
is if he wins the fight
mm-hmm.
then Volkanovski and Islam rematch, and Volkanovski wins, and then Oliveira could fight Volkanovski.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would be the best possible thing for Oliveira because I think Oliveira matches up better against Volk than he does against Makhachev.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that's going to happen because I think Beneil Dariush is going to win this fight.
I I'm gonna be honest with you. What I'm thinking, I like Oliveira a lot, but as terms of this fight goes, I'm actually really on your side with Darush winning because I know, like, oh yeah, Oliveira lost to, Makachev. Both of them were grapplers. You think about it, it's just both of them were grapplers, and they had that whole grapple game. Darush, on the other hand, is a striker, and he's got a punch. Like you've seen the KOs that he's had, a few of the KOs, like the one that's like really popular. It's just thinking. I'm thinking if they go into like striking game wise, I'm thinking Darush is gonna end up
Yeah. Well,
KOing.
Darush has kind of gotten known for his striking because I think he likes to stand. But
Yeah.
Darush actually won a world championship in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu before he went pro in MMA.
Okay. Yeah, I
I,
know. I
I
know he has
actually
that.
I actually think that Dariush's grappling is better than Oliveira's.
Okay.
I think Oliveira has a better submission game. I think Oliveira
Mm-hmm.
has the best
Yeah.
submission game in the entirety of mixed martial arts, probably in the history of the sport. But as a MMA grappler, I'm a huge jujitsu head. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like my MMA grappling is as good as anybody's. But as someone who's also like a huge nerd of the sport, there's a difference between submission artists and wrestlers and MMA grappling and fence wrestling, and we kind of all, well, not all of us, not me, but there's this thing that we'll do where we'll group all them together and we'll just talk about grappling.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, there's a bunch of different facets of it. And so when I think about submission game, Oliver has the advantage. But when I think about like the overall picture of wrestling defense, submission defense, scrambles in those exchanges, guard passing. I actually think Benil Dariush is better overall on the ground in those individual areas and pretty much everything but submissions, grabbing submissions.
Okay.
If you watch Benil Dariush versus Mateusz Gamrot, they actually fought on the same card as the
Yeah.
Islam versus Makhachev card. Dude, Gamrot's wrestling is incredible, and he
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do anything to keep Dariush on the ground. Um, Dariush has an extremely high mat IQ. For his awareness and scrambles, he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Ending up in the right position or ending up in a position, even if he does get taken down, to immediately start working his way back up to his feet or in a more advantageous position to end up on the top in a scramble. So I don't really see Oliveira being able to take Dariush down, pass his guard, and submit him. And they both like to get into firefight exchanges.
Okay.
Um, they both have a tendency to start swinging wild if they get into the
Mm-hmm.
pocket. And Dariush's chin is a lot better than Oliveira's.
Yeah, I agree.
They both pack a pop in their punch. They both have some power in their
Yeah,
hands.
definitely.
Especially Oliveira's left hook is a moneymaker.
Mm-hmm.
And his right cross too. He knocked out Jared Gordon. He
Yeah.
knocked out knocked down Justin Gaethje and submitted him. But he has a great right cross. And then Dariush's best punches is overhand left.
Yeah.
He slept some people with that. James Vick, obviously
Yeah.
that super famous one against what's his name? The real famous knockout.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking of. Uh, I know it by the top of my head, but
I don't
it's
know why I'm slipping on his name. He's a
I
good
don't know
fighter. I talk
either.
about him a lot. Anyways, but gosh, the guy Jeremy Stevens pushed him and he hurt his neck. Why am I
Yeah.
blanking on this guy? It's gonna bother me.
Yeah.
Whatever. Um, him. Um, but
Let's see. I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
look it
feel
up.
like if they get into a firefight, Um, Oliveira is gonna go down before Dariush does. So I think Oliveira loses to Beneil Dariush.
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you
thinking
looking it
that.
up? I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who it is. Um,
I can picture him in my head.
yeah, what I'm seeing, it's not the person I'm thinking of. It's not close.
Jakar Close.
Oh, it is close. Okay. Oh
Jakar
yeah, it's
Close.
the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that was a good fight. Dude. My other, just like before we wrap all this up, my other thing is when I was getting into it, conversation I had, Makachev against Volk. I think Volk had that fight because one Volkanovski put in more damage. Like yeah, Makachev had him on ground game, of course. Makachev is probably one of the best ground game guys I've ever seen because he's hell of an athlete. But
Yeah, he has the best overall ground game in the
yeah,
UFC right now,
I
for sure.
definitely agree. But I was Volk had like you see at the end of that fight, you look at the both of them. Makachev's face was just you can tell he took the damage that fight. And Volk had some hell of a punches on him and I I definitely Volk's got great stand up. Don't get that wrong. It's just I don't think anybody could take on Makachev in ground game. It's super hard. I just when I see fighters go against it, like Oliveira, great grappler, took him on. Just I think it was what round was it?
Second round.
Second round. I was gonna say second round, but I didn't want to just get it wrong and just look bad. But
We
um,
already looked at it because we forgot who Jakar Close was. It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. There, yeah. We look bad already because of that. But I was saying it's just like, dude, it's Oliveira. Second round. You just saw he gave up and he's just like I can't do anything. But it's just like I
Yeah,
think.
he just got beat, man. He just got
Mm,
beat. um, but yeah, I think Dariush gets it done against Oliveira, and I
yeah.
think Dariush matches up against Makachev
Hmm.
better than anyone in the lightweight division.
That's June 10th, right? Or
I
did
think
they?
so. He's fighting on that Irina Aldana versus Amanda Nunes
Yeah.
card,
My
which
buddy.
I'm not buying the pay per view for that main event. I'm
I won't
sorry.
either. Actually,
I might
I
go to Buffalo
will.
Wild Wings though, just for the
I
content.
will buy that pay per view because my buddy's fighting Adam Fugett's fighting Michael Mallet.
On the
So
pay per view card or in the undercard?
I'm pretty sure he's pay per view.
Okay.
He might be. I'm pretty sure he's pay per view. He's pay per view. Cause
Sorry.
I
Ooh,
remember
no disrespect to Adam Fugit. Sorry, man.
yeah
That sounded bad. Some freaking 2-1 regional fighters like trying to
yeah.
throw shade. I'm not trying to throw shade at him. That came out wrong.
Hey man, I like even though he's my buddy and everything, but I see this going his way. Like he his first fight was against Michael Morales, undefeated fighter, good fighter. Uh, dude, I think if that he was telling me when he fought against Morales, he had that one punch that he was like, shit, I threw that wrong, and that's where Morales caught him, and it's just like if he didn't do something like that, I'm pretty sure he could have him. And it's just like I think Morales is I don't know, I think he's a better fighter than Mallet. And I'm thinking that I know a lot of people are gonna say Mallet's gonna sweep. Because Mallet's a good fighter. He knocked out Mickey Gall, Canadian fighter, great fighter. But I'm thinking there's gonna be an upset here. Not only just because I know him well, it's just like I saw I saw a different side of him when he fought Kinoshita, and it's like seeing that first round, he just took that fight. Like from the second of that fight started, he was going out with that.
Cool.
It's
Hey, you heard it here first. That's the underdog parlay pick of the night. If you need a
yeah.
live dog for your parlay, Adam Fugit, baby.
Yeah, yeah, that's dude. That's what I'm thinking. It's just like
Hashtag pick it.
yeah, I've seen a different like maybe I won't bet on that, but like I'm just because I'm not a big betting guy, but I could see that fight being a really good fight, and it just I was kind of surprised to see that matchmaking. I don't know about you, just to see like straight up going from taking. I think he dominated that fight against that one guy, but now going to Mallet is just a whole change up, and like
Yeah, big step up in competition.
yeah, but
But
yeah,
hey, when you have good performances, when you get big wins in
mm-hmm,
dominant fashion, you get moved up the ladder. That's how it
yeah,
works.
definitely. All right, well, I don't know about you, but I think we've gone through everything. Uh,
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you very much. And
yeah,
yeah,
dude.
send me the podcast once it's uploaded to
Yeah,
YouTube. I
man.
really appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
the interview.
appreciate you coming on. All right, that's the podcast. Thank you for everyone that's gonna watch this.